And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another weekly review with The Robot, brought to you by the Movie Pope. And here he is, bolts and nuts akimbo, The Robot.
What up, everybody? Happy 4th of July. Normally around this time of year, my esteemed co-hosts would be doing a review to celebrate our nation's birthday. Maybe like Glory or Captain America, or something that was patriotic. But for whatever reason this year, they were too lazy to do anything, so they asked me to handle it instead. And I said sure, I will, won't I? It's not like I had any plans to go up to Long Island and visit family, or hang with friends. I'll just review movies, why don't I? So, today, we're taking a look at the 1997 Nicolas Cage action thriller Con Air. What better way to celebrate freedom than a bunch of convicts taking over a prison transport plane? Yeah, how'd you like that, Lee, the so-called movie pope? Bet you a honey he's not gonna be too thrilled about it. Anyway, let's dive right in. Cameron Poe, the hero of this movie, is just a simple army ranger who's trying to get home to meet his wife and daughter. Unfortunately, his life got derailed when a drunk tried to get it on with his woman and he applied his army training to defend her. As a result, he ends up in the big house where he's communicating via snail mail. Poe gets paroled and, unfortunately, ends up in the middle of this entire mess. What rattled my circuits was that he could have gotten off in Carson City, but he decided to stay, which perplexed me and the Air Marshal, Larkin. Was he doing this to keep tabs on Grissom? Did he decide to take it upon himself to stop the hijacking? Or was he just trying to make sure his buddy, Baby-O, got his insulin? Whatever the case may be, he walks a pretty tightrope to not draw the hijackers' suspicion while hampering their efforts. Also not too sure why he's so keen to hide his identity. I mean, it's not like he's a spook or anything, but he kills Bedford when he gets too close. Cage does play him as a guy who lets his fist do the talking, but the attempt at a southern drawl did annoy me just a tad bit. He was very keen to make sure nothing happened to the bunny, and by God he kept his word. It was for Casey, remember. Air Marshal Larkin is the whipping boy here. Is he the only guy here who takes things seriously? I mean seriously, not hyperbolic serious. Malloy is just gung-ho who wants to shoot down planes, and his boss Devers just goes along with Malloy because he's dear. The guy just can't catch a break. He's wise onto the convicts and is fighting a battle to get the support he needs to stop Grissom. When he learns about Lerner Airfield, he takes off in Malloy's car, figuring he's not gonna need it, after he can't find a single aircraft to get him there in 50 minutes. But there are some things that are befuddling. At the airstrip, when he discovers Cindino's jet and the engines ignited, sends him backwards, but his shirt gets scorched just a tad bit. I figured at that proximity you'd be toast, literally. He somehow survives unscathed while the soldiers are dropping like flies all around. And he just happens to know how to fly an attack helicopter. I guess the Air Marshal training program was very in-depth back in the day, from gun training to flying aerial vehicles. Throughout the movie, Grissom, the leader of the breakout, is depicted as cool, calm, and collected, making decisions that could lead the convicts to freedom or get them captured. But it's rather strange, though, that a guy who is a self-made genius ends up agreeing with Poe. Really, it's like the suggestions Poe make would seem pretty sound, such as sparing the hostages for leverage. So, I wonder if Grissom is so clever that he overlooks the pretty obvious things. Either that or this is first run and he's playing it all by ear. But the bigger issue is how our friend meets his end. When the plane crashed in Las Vegas, Grissom and his associates steal a fire truck to escape. When Poe subdues him, he's tied to the fire ladder, and this is where things become rather weird. The ladder crashed through a skyway with Grissom attached, and the force used is tremendous. So, logically, Grissom should have been killed by the impact, but somehow he survives. Ladders going at full speed and smashing through skyways tend to cause a lot of debris and damage. And there should be some pretty sharp debris that would impale someone. Grissom only meets his end when a weight turns his head into brain soup. Yes, prison made him really, really tough. There were some funny moments I want to give a shout out to. The first is when Malloy's car gets caught by the plane and swung through the air as they take off. Malloy is at first astonished and then, when he sees it is his car, horrified. Dave Chappelle also steals the scenes he's in, the big one being when Grissom makes a jab at crackheads and Pickles asks him if he was being serious.
You know, the next time you choose a human shield, you're better off not picking a 2-bit Negro crackhead.
Anyone who's a fan of the Chappelle Show will get the reference. It's Tyrone. Well, it's a prediction of Tyrone, who Chappelle would play later on. There's also the bit where he's planting the transponder in a sightseeing plane and tries to get back on and dies in the landing gear. The way he's disposed is dark and disturbing and yet oddly comical, crashing onto a car and causing a major traffic incident. Steve Buscemi as the mass murderer Green was an odd addition. Didn't add to the story and didn't contribute much, and it was strange that a string bean of a human was as intimidating as all the jacked up dudes. He's getting the Hannibal Lecter treatment when he's loaded on the plane, but his decision to not harm the little girl was a relief for me. Also, why would you land a plane in the middle of a sandstorm? Who does that? Con Air is a pretty unique concept. Convicts overtaking a prison transport plane. Whether it was a ship, train, or plane, these types of movies were the rage back in the 80s and 90s. However, when you consider what would happen just for years later in New York and Washington, that kind of scenario would be mothballed. The convict's motivations are clear for the most part, but Pose is a mixed bag. We know he wants to see his family, but staying on the plane, dealing with people who don't really affect him, is a humdinger. But I gotta give it them. They keep it super simple in terms of the story and then couple with senseless violence, dark characters who don't require depth, and lots of explosion. Plus, it gives us a chance to see a part of the country we seldom see, all sparse and empty. Kinda like the Southwest, you know, and today is Independence Day, so we should celebrate our freedom as a nation. And Con Air is about a bunch of ne'er-do-wells who are fighting for their freedom. How they do it is questionable, but if you're looking for a movie to screen while barbecuing, may I suggest this Nicolas Cage gem. Thanks for watching, and if you don't mind, please leave us a like, it helps a lot. And while you're at it, subscribe so you never miss an episode drop. This is the Robot signing off.